being an asset. People don't want to spend gold, so there is deflation and falling prices. The problem being that as as banks have become more and more able to create their own money through the fractional reserve system, the amount of um, gold reserves has decreased, which is a bad thing. I'll admit that. But the also the amount of um, government made fiat money has also decreased. So let me make a distinction between government made money, as Stephen Keen said. Government made money can be the backed up by an index of commodities, a basket of goods and services, and also because the citizens are the lenders of last resort. Therefore, the citizens have a liability, and of course, um, as banks are relying on citizens to be the lenders of last resort, they can create an unlimited amount of credit money. That's basically money that they can insure by drawing on the resources of government. But they create that money themselves for their own profit by lending it back to the the, the, the citizens, you know. Um, and of course, this leads back to, again, back to the Romans, because the Romans, both Epicurean and Stoic philosophies, try to increase people's ability to um, have critical thinking, have rationality, and to really examine their things and to have virtue. Now, the Epicureans didn't stress virtue so much. They they perhaps had the whip hand over Stoic philosophy in terms of or in terms of the modern way of looking at things, because of the influence of American culture, which draws from the American Constitution. Even though people who are shooting each other because of Black Friday and the naked consumerism, I mean, people are killing each other to get cheap goods that they could get any other time of the year. But as Amazing Atheist said, but so the Epicurean idea of just having pleasure, which the Stoics critiqued because they believed in some things were worth going through pain to get, hard to achieve, or like virtues, you know, saving your family from the flames, you know, would be worth going through the pain to get in the Stoic view. Of course, the Stoics also believed in the nation state on one level, and also a cosmopolitan um, idea of the world as the world as everybody who could achieve rationalism was part of that world. So that is that that leads on to more ideas of unions and empires as well, because most empires have been cosmopolitan. If you look at, so Stoicism doesn't directly lead to nationalism. The people who put together nationalism and socialism, of course, led to a strengthening of the nation state, the creation of a welfare system which increased the value of citizenship. And of course, this is what the National Socialists and also the British in Germany, I mean, and also the British Empire after 1945 have have continued. But of course, the National Socialists tries to create a continental empire up to the Ural Mountains and impose Western civilization on what they saw as an alien force, a foreign Eastern identity from the Soviets, you know, which they believe come from Zionism as well, because of the ethnic origin of Marx. He was Jewish, not German. And of course, they made this distinction of those who are in, i.e., German or Nordic Celtic people being citizens, whether they were Germans or Scandinavians or people from the Netherlands or even the French or Italians, and those who were the Slavs, the Gypsies, the Jews and Arabs and Turks and other people, and this theme in National Socialism has continued on, right? But as I was saying about the Romans, they reinforced ideas of virtue, which of course had had an economic effect, and of course the National Socialists, although they tried to inculcate ideas of virtue in terms of bravery or steadfastness in the face of the enemy and other things, of course, which you can see from the way how hard the Germans fought in the First and Second World Wars, because of course National Socialism goes further back than Adolf Hitler. They also draw from the British Empire, of course. That was the inspiration for Adolf Hitler to create an empire of his own. But empires are inherently unstable because they go beyond the power of the nation state to control them. That is in essence what an empire is. So after the Second World War, the Epicurean ideas and the ideas of a constitutional republic from the United States were melded with an idea of informal empire, of hegemony. And this worked for quite some time because the Americans were able to export their technology, their good exports and relatively balanced imports within the 1950s. But as soon as they made the dollar the reserve currency, and people were thus paying for American debt and inflation, and they could inflate and export their inflation to what is now the European Union, but they exported it to Britain, even though Britain had been an ally of America. They got rid of the British Empire, the Americans, although it also helped. The British wanted to get rid of the British Empire because, of course, they wanted to become a true democracy. Before the Second World War, it's arguable to say that Britain was not a true democracy, because the existence of Freemasonry, crime families in Britain controlling the means of production. In terms of Britain, really like the city-based crime families of the firms like the Richardsons and other people like that who were armed with guns, as opposed to Freemasonry who used poison and knives and things like that. It kept them in check, and also of course the Union movement kept them in check. But of course this all changed. You got social democracy after the Second World War, but because of our link to America, we started to adopt the American model, and as the dollar became the reserve currency, America and Britain both became like Rome in its fall, nations of bread and circuses. It changed from people who were entrepreneurs and people who were attached to the unions and industry and technology, creating new technologies, to people who started to get into banking, to become obsessed with celebrity culture, to do and were being moulded by an educational system which, unlike the Romans, didn't encourage them to critical thinking. It encouraged them to be good consumers and to be good voters, and through the psychological forces which ultra-conservatism unleashed, which ultimately led to Margaret Thatcher and Thatcherism, and they put the ANC in South Africa because they wanted to control the gold supply, because South Africa and Russia are the only ones who control the gold supply. That is why you can't go back to the gold standard, because they would control the gold supply.